Financial advisors help Australians live better lives, and we're great at it. But what about us? For us to thrive in the coming years, I'm here to ask a very big question. How can we live better, run better businesses, and help more clients along the way? My name is Jessica Brady, and I would love for you to join me as I listen and learn from experts who answer these very big questions. I am lucky enough to record most of my podcasts on Gadigal land.
Open Invest is an innovative Melbourne-based investment platform giving Australians access to investment portfolios managed by the world's leading investment managers, including BlackRock, JP Morgan and Schroders. It's ideal for clients and prospects you can't support via traditional financial advice-led portfolio management. Or, if you have your own well-resourced and experienced portfolio management team, Open Invest can customise their tech to give your firm its own digital investing solution. Your brand, your portfolios, your content, accessible directly from your website via general advice.
This week, I am lucky enough to talk to Sam Perera. Sam's the Managing Director of Econ Insurance Services, but he's also the President of the Association of Financial Advisors. He's a father of 4 and plays sport, and I wanted to know what's going on in his world, what's going on from an association perspective, and frankly, how does he manage it all without falling apart? Perhaps there is something to learn. Please enjoy my chat with Sam. Hello, Sam Perera.
Hello, Jessica Brady.
I'm so excited to have you as a guest.
Finally. I was waiting for that invite.
I know. Well, it's only been a few months now, so you are one of the first. One of the first guests.
Congratulations. I've heard you're a great host.
I'm paying lots of people lots of money to say that, so it's obviously working. I thought about this the other day. I think we have known each other for about 15 years.
I reckon that'd be fairly close, Jess, when you were a young whippersnapper.
Oh my gosh, I was 5.
Well, look, in your Commonsure BDM days, is that right? That's probably when this started.
Right.
Yeah.
And you, my dear, have gone on to do all of this amazing stuff, which we're going to unpack today. But I wanted to have you as a guest because A, I think you're great. B, I think it's really nice to hear what's going on from an association perspective, and also to be able to overlay sort of what you're finding practically is happening in your business as well. I think you're able to give such interesting, unique perspectives because you are a practicing advisor and you have a really big role in moving our profession into a exciting new direction. And so I'm keen to learn all about that because really, honestly and frankly, I have been in my own little, let's call it COVID bubble. I'm just blaming everything I can on COVID at this point. And I feel that I don't have a good enough grasp of what's happening out there in the big, bad, wide world. And so if we can use our time today to help educate me and perhaps others on what you're fighting, no doubt with a good fight, I think that would be very valuable. Before we get into that though, can we just, for people that don't know you, can we learn more about Sam? What is your story?
Oh, well, Jess, I was thinking before we get into that, though, I know you're the host, but the fact that you've been in a COVID bubble and someone protected from some of the noise that's been going off is probably a good thing. So let's hope I don't drag you too far into some of that noise because I think striking a balance is important. But look, an advisor, run my own practice and have done so for the duration of, the best part of 16 years. Started in the Sutherland Shire, which is essentially where our operations still remain, and merged and purchased a few practices and have a presence in town as well. So we're mostly risk-based and do some corporate superannuation and some group risk work as well. So a small boutique firm. What have we got? 10 staff, and feel as though we're really hitting our straps after about 15 years of hard work. So that's me from a professional sense. Is that sort of what you wanted?
Yeah. Whatever you want.
Don't see. Sharks fan. Love my sport.
You've got small. Well, they're probably not even small anymore. You've got a couple of kids.
Yes, young families. So kids that sort of keep me grounded. And I noticed that in terms of some of the preparation, not that you gave me much preparation, that you said one of the rapid fire questions is how, of course, and apologies if you can hear my phone, how, of course, do you de-stress or let off a bit of steam? But certainly sport is my thing. Play some team sport and train, and of course a massage and a steam whenever I get a chance to as well. So busy with work, a young family, and trying to find some time for myself as well to de-stress, because obviously it's juggling a couple of roles at the moment, which I'm enjoying most of the time.
I love that you've taken over this show. My rapid fire questions are for the very end, and we've been recording for only a few minutes, and you've already gone topsy-turvy. Welcome, Sam Perera.
You did say we've known each other for 15 years, so surely I've got some latitude.
You have lots and lots and lots. Just on that, so how do you manage all of that? Like, that's a lot. You've got a busy practice that's been established for a long time, and it sounds like you've got a number of staff members, and you've been through some M&As, and you've got kids, and you've increasingly increased your roles or seniority within the Association of Financial Advisors. Like, do you sleep?
Well, no, I'd love to say to you that I work 16-hour days and I'm extremely stressed and I do 7 days a week, but frankly the answer to that question is no. I think...
Good. Yeah. That's not a good thing.
As you well know, and starting a business and going through the, through staffing and resourcing, I think brilliant teams help you. Equally, the AFA, my good friend Mike, when he hung up the boots in October, when I was contemplating taking over the presidency, my team at work within the business said, well, when you're running the show, you can organise things how you want to organise them and call your own shots. So I think that autonomy, largely obviously I rely on the executive directors and Phil Anderson, who's my very capable set of hands and CEO at the AFA, but I've got that similar sort of structure here at the office. So when you run your own show, as you well know, Jess, you can organise things to make it work, and jobs and tasks that you enjoy that often not a chore. So great teams, enjoy what I do, fairly ruthless, and say no to the shit most of the time. So sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, everyone asks me every week and I say yes. I don't know what the official rule is, but I like to, so I say yes and hope that the expat community embrace our colloquial style of podcasting. Coming back to something that you said before, like you would love to say that you work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I will tell you, as someone who tried that and then have burnt myself out, it is not a very sustainable solution. And so it actually sounds like you have been able to continue to sort of, and I want to say this correctly, but almost like lift yourself up into a point within the business where you aren't doing all of the things, so you've got the space to be able to take on these extra capabilities. Is that fair?
Yeah, indeed. I think it was a perfect whilst we just undertaken a decent-sized merger at the end of last year, and some people had thought we were biting off more than it could chew, but it was fairly deliberate in terms of that particular strategy. It was scale, there's additional resourcing, so it gave me the platform to expand what I've been doing over the last 15 years, and thereby give me the time that I need to spend on my extracurricular activities such as within the AFA. So absolutely, I think 15 years of hard work, like all of us put in terms of our business, is starting to pay off dividends by giving me the flexibility to live the life and do the things I want to do.
Because isn't that what we're all about? Like, there's just such a beautiful irony often in our world where we don't practice what we preach.
Indeed. And, I take it one step further and I talk about, financial advisors advising their clients financially, but do you follow that, those sorts of, similar mantras in terms of scrutinising your business and your business activities and the acquisition of clients and just that financial prudence, if you like. So absolutely. And the other part of that is, financial independence and goals and objectives, money. You exchange your time for money, but that ought to allow you to do what you need to do in life, because as we know, life can be extremely short and extremely delicate.
Very true. And my general sense is we collectively, generalization, we need to do a better job of that.
We as advisors or we as people or we as what?
We as advisors. So when I was in my first job, one of the things that I did at CBA was I did commission runs for advisors. And look, obviously this is 100 years ago because we've just worked out that I'm very old. But the amount of advisors that were needing early commission runs used to blow my mind. And I used to sit there and I was at uni at the time and like on a very entry level job. And I kept thinking, isn't this what these people do? Isn't this their job? And I'd love to say that we've gotten better and obviously lots have stood in our way. But I think as a general rule of thumb, if you actually sat down and said to most financial advisors, what's your current financial plan? I'd be fascinated to hear how many of them have a robust enough strategy or as a robust strategy as they'd give their clients.
Yeah, I think it'd be an intriguing question. I suspect, given the change in sort of business models and the, I suppose, the evolution of, frankly, if you're in the financial services game and you're an advisor that runs your own show, I think you need to, have decent business acumen, just given the way that things have evolved and the way that things continue to evolve. So that selection process itself, which is a natural selection process itself, ought to dictate that those that are left over. Jim Collins, in his hedgehog concept, he says when you're in business and you examine the good versus the great companies in America over I think over 100 years or whatever. He said one of the things that differentiate the top companies from the good companies is this concept called the hedgehog, and these companies focus on what they're deeply passionate about, focus on their I suppose what they can be the best in the world at, and the third being that something which drives their economic engine, in other words, that makes them profit. And it's at the intersection of those three circles where you've got great, profitable, empowered and progressive companies. And certainly I think as advisors that run our own practices, we're in the business of making money. So part of my job at the AFA and Phil's and our board is to make sure that you've got the policy settings that enable you to continue to run successful financial practices where you thrive off the financial success off the back of running good professional practices.
What's it like being El Presidente? Oh,
well, I not like Donald Trump or anything like that, but I was in Canberra down for the federal budget a couple of weeks ago, and obviously met some key stakeholders, and being able to represent the sector and have frank and direct conversations. My style is trying to build deep and personal relationships with some of these people, which take time. I get off on that, and I'm only able to do that, I suppose, as a result of this illustrious title that our members have sort of bestowed upon me. So I enjoy that aspect of it. So it opens certain doors to be able to walk into certain places and be able to talk on behalf of the sector. Hopefully I'm saying the right thing on your behalf. Aside from that, I think also, doing things like such as this podcast and this discussion, being able to contribute to how I see, as a result of my experience and speaking to different people, different advisors, regulators, legislators, etc., where I see things heading, but more importantly, getting a sense of what people like you on the ground need to make you even more successful. And, so that's kind of what being the president's like, aside from that number of meetings, which I don't really enjoy. But, overall, I'm having a good time. I'm there till October, so let's see how we go.
Lovely. I'd wondered whether, you wear a crown or some sort of like official robe, or if there's any sort of, anything, beyond what we would normally understand as part of that role. But it sounds like that's not included as part of the role. What are the current priorities for, and from what I understand, there's been quite an evolution, just to sort of backstep, there's been quite an evolution in terms of the AFA and the FPA working quite closely together. So maybe some commentary on that. And if that is true, what are sort of the priorities that the two of you are working on now?
Yeah, it is absolutely the case, especially under Marissa Broom and Mike Novak over the last few years, and Phil Kewen and Dante, the CEOs before that, the associations have worked closely together. I think that my view is that the sector deserves the two associations to come together and collaborate and use their joint resources on important issues, because we as advisors deserve the best bang for buck in that regard. So it's been continuing, and I have a very good working relationship with Marissa. What are we working on at the moment? We've got a joint life insurance task force. The AFA, as you well know, has historically had strong representation in the insurance area. So whilst we have this joint task with the FPA allow us to lead work on that, we were pleased to have played a significant role in lobbying against the next lot of changes that were going to happen to income protection in October. So we worked with the FPA, but the AFA, seemed to lead that conversation and strategically did so. And there are other areas where the FPA would have the strategic nous and would be working with them. So working more closely than I think that we've ever had before, and whoever the subject matter that we work on depends on who's got the subject matter leads, but got a great working relationship, and fundamentally I wouldn't have it any other way.
It sounds like that has been working quite well over the last few years, and it's exciting to hear that, from a resourcing capability perspective, you both decide who has sort of the natural lead on that task and then take that forward. We are about to have an election, and I think we are very early in the campaigning, and already I'm about it. I don't know how you're feeling, but I'm just a bit What do you think it will actually – do you think it'll mean anything for us if there's a change of government? And if so, what's your thoughts? I haven't prepped Sam on this.
A question without notice. Do we think there's much in it for us? Unfortunately, financial services is not a election platform that any particular side will run on. That being said, Labor and Stephen Jones preemptively announced some changes to the education standards to try and win some brownie points with the advice sector, which was broadly received by people who felt as though we were hard done by in terms of recognition of prior learning. But that being said, I can't see there are no, certainly as far as the coalition is concerned, there are no election policies that they're running with.
Right.
As to the most recent information that I received, and Labor, there might be one other small thing. We don't know. We're working on it to try and convince them. But frankly, I don't think at a sector level it might make too much of a difference in terms of the election. Obviously, the outcome of the election and whoever gets up is going to be implementing Michelle Levy's quality of advice review, which is So yeah, that and of course, insurance commissions, for example, is one of those things where I suspect the coalition have more of a bent to avoid banning them, and Labor have probably got a predisposition to ban them, although we've made some significant inroads in terms of moving Stephen and his team and continue to do so. So that's the big one, but I think unilaterally they all agree that regulation, red tape, etc. has gone too far and they need to wind some of that back. So there might be tiny nuances, but I don't think any. Insurance Commission might be the battleground in terms of the significant difference between Labor and Liberal, but we're trying to bridge that.
And, one thing I think about, and maybe I've become, cynical and jaded in my 5 years of giving advice, but I wonder if the regulatory guidelines do soften or, become slightly more relaxed than they are now, how much actual practical impact is that going to have to the advisor who has that big AFSL compliance team in the middle? Like, are they going to be on board around making some of the changes necessary to deliver more advice faster, simpler, etc., or are they going to take that, continue with that tough stance? And so I think that'll be interesting because I do feel like there's so many layers now to getting that actually practically at the coalface changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on a significant point, which is something that I've raised before, it's not necessarily what's written in the laws or the regs. It's perhaps ASIC's enforcement agenda and the way they are sometimes heavy-handed, which then gives licensees risk appetites which are not palatable and drive up costs, and that's where you get checklists and layer upon layer. So whilst Michelle Levy and the Quality of Advice Review could say we want SOAs down to 5 pages or whatever, it certainly goes back to licensee appetite. But then again, it seems to me there are more and more people making choices in relation to the best way of operating their businesses, whether it be self-licensed or aggregating within a license that's a bit more boutique, and as an advice partner in terms of being able to deliver advice. So I think, but you nail a significant point there, because that's certainly where a number of complexity and cost comes in, licensee risk appetite.
Totally. And so if you had one sort of goal or objective as your time of El Presidente in AFA, have you nailed what that is? Like, do you have one thing that you're like, right, if I leave having done this or having changed this or giving more focus to this, I'll feel like I've done my thing well?
Yeah, look, I think if I can talk perhaps more broadly about our team's efforts and what's on our agenda rather than my own. You really want them to think that I'm a selfish, egotistical?
No, okay, yeah. Talk about the team. You're right. This is an ecosystem. Sorry. Yeah. Tell me what the team are going to do. Sorry.
No, yeah. Look, I think if we were to talk about what success might look like, I think certainly getting some wins in terms of the Quality of Advice Review would be, and what does that mean? It means making sure we do something in relation to annual renewal and the obligations to reduce that burden. It is about Michelle Levy setting down in writing on the 16th of December in her paper that insurance commissions are important because it gives consumers choice in terms of how they are able to pay their advisors, and perhaps a few little tweaks in and around SOAs, etc., where we're removing duplication. I often say a great example is the FSG. What is the point of an FSG? You've got financial advice register. You can work out if advisors are qualified, who they're licensed through, etc. Why do we need to get licensees to produce this document, keep it updated, etc.? There's no utility in that, and it's an exercise in futility. There you go. That was my rhyme for the day. But so I think, maybe insurance commissions, annual renewal, a couple of other small changes around the traps that are implemented fairly quickly. So, and the AFA, we've already met with Michelle Levy and her team, and we'll continue to do that. So, being fairly engaged in that, bringing our members along. Michelle's going to go and visit some advice practices and see how they operate as well. So hopefully we can play a role in that. So I think that's a big one. I'd like to get our communities together. We've got roadshows coming up. And the conferences, of course, you're a big conference groupie. You've played a significant role, and
I love a good conference. A good conference. Yes.
So are you coming?
Oh, you have to remind me when it is, because remember I'm going away.
Oh yes, of course, September. But surely you'd make a trip back just for an AFA conference. But
TBA, only because I'm trying to be a financial advisor that practices what she preaches, and one of my big bucket list things was to spend 3 months overseas, and so I'm about to embark on a 3-month trip coming in June. But if not, I will be there, and I want to stay with bells on, and I can actually make it with bells on if you want me to, if I'm in Australia.
We'll get you to host a session from whilst you've got a backpack on from somewhere in the world. But I think, everyone's probably a little bit over it. Aside from the COVID-related pressures and the lockup and the anxieties and all of that, the sector's also had our own issues. I think it'd be good to get our communities back. And I'm fairly harsh on conference content, as you well know. We've had conversations over the sidelines of many different conferences that we've been to where and especially in this world, I don't want our members and our guests paying thousands of dollars, taking the best part of a week out of their practice to go to somewhere where they take away no real value or practical tips. So I'm looking forward to, our team being able to deliver something that's a little bit different, showing people how to thrive, more advisor involvement, etc. So, and party, of course, Jess. That's important, right?
Yeah, I go, my theory with conferences, and you'll know if you know me, is like first on the dance floor, first in bed and ready and raring the next day. You're making it sound like I'm wild. I love all of the tips and I come back really energized. But to your point, you come back and you're busy, and unless something's quite easily implementable or there's a good accountability framework or a good blueprint in terms of actually practically how do you do this, it just becomes a great idea that gets shoved on the to-do list, which never gets sort of reviewed. And so I think in this day and age, more than ever, like how we can practically implement meaningful, profitable changes in our businesses has never been more relevant.
Indeed, and I think that threshold, if you like, is going to increase even further, because my view is, and I open this when I'm sitting with the regulators, legislators, and when we sat down with Michelle Levy and the Quality of Advice Review team, is, it's a bit of a paradox, because I'm extremely bullish on the sector. I'm extremely bullish on the sector. Yeah, because of the people that are left that run professional businesses, the advisors that are left that have got good teams behind them. We are going to have a truckload of clients who are going to want our services. And if we can't afford to service X, Y, Z number of clients, well, we'll have to move into the A, Bs and Cs. So I am absolutely bullish about the sector, the opportunities, the ability to run financially profitable practices. I guess that the fights that we have are probably a little bit more in the realm of greater good. And the greater good's important, because if Australians aren't financially literate, if they don't make smart decisions and don't retire well, people like you and me that make good money, we have to pay high taxes. And frankly, I hate paying tax. I don't know about you.
I like paying the right amount of tax. That's how my account the right amount of tax. No more, no less, just the right amount.
As Kerry Packer said, they don't do a good job with it anyway, so why should we give them any more than we ought to?
Tell me, so what I'm hearing in your assessment in terms of like where we're at, obviously the numbers have come down. They've come down significantly to the tune of like 10,000, I think. And so what I'm hearing is your perspective is, yep, we've had a whole heap leave for a variety of reasons. Obviously, Royal Commission, legislative standards and education requirements, also retirement and just how old some of them were. Do you think we will stabilise where we are now? Do you see that there's going to be a huge surge in financial advisors over the coming years? Like, what are you predicting in terms of numbers?
Yeah, look, I think certainly it's not as low as that in terms of what the current status is, and kind of like Anthony Albanese this morning, who did know the unemployment rate. That's only because I've got numbers going in my head. I think we might be at 17 or 15,000, depending on how you measure it. So I think over the course of the next couple of years, and in line with the education deadline at 2026, we expect to lose a few more advisors. Then I suspect we'll plateau. But of course, our issue is the lack of new entrants coming in, and that's no secret. The PYU can be quite onerous. But I think the other practical overlay of that is in the past you used to have places like the banks, where you started, that to bring in advisors through their various businesses. So those channels have largely left. And for small business, it's going to be important in terms of succession planning and helping us get good talent to service clients. So I think it is a significant issue, and more so about the lack of the replenishment in the sector. I think it's a joint issue. I don't think we can just expect government to make the professional use so easy. I think, Jess, and I think we did a session at one of the unis once. I'm pretty sure, to talk to some uni students.
Yeah, I used to do a lot at the unis, and I think I dragged you to one of them. So thank you for attending. But do we have to do more of that? Like, is it that every financial advisor needs to go and talk to school kids about what financial advisors do so that they pick it for uni?
I think so, because my memory, and my memory is failing me now that I'm over 40, but was that a lot of those kids that were studying financial planning, in fact, didn't have any idea about what financial planning is. And given our a financial planner could be someone that deals in nothing but insurance, could be dealing with aged care, could be, budgeting and money, accumulator coach. So it's so diverse. I don't think the sector can agree on a universal definition. So I guess it's up to us to go out there and to talk about, sell the wares, talk about the diversity, talk about the opportunities, just now that you're on the dark side, about how you can build a fabulous lifestyle and a fabulous business. Bread and water, of course, for the first 10 years, but being the benefits of the sector, and I don't think there are many other professional services roles that enable you to build a business and take control of a destiny and build an asset just of financial services. So we've got to get out there and get on the front foot. So I think that's up to the sector. People like AFA, the FPA, it's not really government's role. It's up to us. We just haven't been able to do it because we've been too busy holding a fire hose, putting out fires over the last 3 or 4 years. So, it's annoying.
It is annoying. And we are all going to be scrambling to hire from the same resource pool. So we all have a vested interest in widening the amount of people that know what we do. One of the things that I learned from going into a lot of unis, so this is probably 7 years ago, I would go into quite a lot of Sydney unis to try to help them understand broadly the sector and also the types of different roles that exist. And often people would say to me, I didn't know that I thought a financial advisor would be far more analytical. And so there's, of course, this perception that it's much more sort of numbers based. And, I don't know about you, but I spend most of my time coaching people and, there's lots of tears and it's much more emotional. And so I also think educating people on that side of things, particularly for women, I think most women are good at that and like that, and that's why they can make really good financial advisors. But I don't think we do a very good job of educating young people that that's a big part of it. So I'm just gifting you that to think about, because you need more to do, clearly. But, I think getting financial literacy into schools and getting the opportunity for financial advisors to go and talk to schools when we're allowed. I know that's something that the AFA has talked about for a long time. I guess that it's possibly time to start picking those ideas back up.
Yeah, and this is where when we talk about, working together with other stakeholders and joint resourcing enables you to do some of these things that you otherwise wouldn't have got an opportunity to do, and that makes a meaningful difference to the sector. I think they're the sorts of energetic initiatives that I hope to be able to achieve once we get through this quality of advice review. But of course, our good friend Russell Collins he says our business 95% people knowledge, 5% technical knowledge, and you better know 100% of the 5%. So, but you're spot on. It's all about people, relationships, which you of course excel at. Hey, is that a stranger trying to get into your house because your dog was barking earlier, or what?
Oh, my dog is the best security guard there ever was, and it's the time of day where people walk past the house. So she's just doing like a hello, welcome. I hope you had a nice day at work. Don't forget to cook dinner and eat your vegetables. She just barks at every person that goes past the house.
No problem. No, all good.
She has been walked. I sometimes think that people think I'm a neglected parent, but I'm not at all. So you do talk about the sector in a really optimistic way. And I can see totally, that's why I decided to jump onto the dark side, as you put it. What do you think advice will look like in 5 or 10 years? Like, what's your big picture? What do you think is like the future for us?
Yeah, what will advice look like in 5 years? So we're talking about, 2027. One of the concepts that's interesting to see comes through, and I don't mean to get technical or political, but I'm bet that way, is, there might be better clarification in terms of financial advisors, what they do. So you might find that people that, specialise in provide comprehensive advice, there's a cohort of those people. You might find that people that provide general advice, those influence, etc., they've got a safe space to do whatever they need to do, increase financial literacy, provide cost-effective solutions, integration of fintech, etc., which is not too regulatory heavy. Caveat emptor, consumers know exactly what they're getting and what they're not getting. And then in the middle, perhaps you might have, and this is just throwing darts to be honest with you, but this is how I would design it if I was the chair of the Quality Advice Review. In the middle, perhaps you would have a whole bunch of advisors that specialise in niches, which is consistent with your requirements and the expectations under FASIA's Code of Ethics, etc., where you've got insurance specialists, you've got aged care specialists, you've got retirement specialists, etc. So bigger, scalable businesses that offer comprehensive solutions, comprehensive advice, different end of the spectrum that's more about education and mass markets in a cost-efficient way, and in the middle, dealing with a bunch of very competent professionals that specialise in their niche. That's perhaps how I would like to see it. The sector, evolve.
Evolve. Exactly like the medical world and the legal world, where typically you've got, apart from the GP, you are a specialist in your field. And from a legal perspective, of course, they know general law, but most of them become specialists in a type of law as well. And so as we progress and things get more nuanced, I think that's a really interesting take. One I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about, but it does make a huge amount of sense if you look at those other professions that have implemented that really well. And perhaps similar to those, you can end up with multidisciplinary advice businesses that have those very niche specialist people within them, but then navigating that relationship piece would be fascinating. Interesting. Sammy, I saw some stats a little while ago and it was pretty rough. The mental health of financial advisors at the moment isn't great. What are your thoughts on what we can do? Because we're tired. I hear this a lot. In fact, I just got off the phone to someone who I have known for a very, very long time, and he is much more in touch with other advisors. And I said, what are you seeing? And he said, Jess, people are tired. Is that, firstly, do you agree? And secondly, what can we do to help ourselves get out of this so that we start feeling like we're thriving?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you. I think certainly the COVID-related pressures that every Australian we've felt. Over and beyond that, we've had to deal with the Royal Commission recommendations. Now, I say even the most successful practices in the country were significantly impacted by some of those recommendations because they had to adjust business models for changes that came in October last year, annual renewal, etc. Labour-intensive, took us away from the very reason as to why we existed, is to serve clients, be in front of clients, etc. So everyone copped it as a result of the changes out of the RC and other measures. And over and beyond that, if you're having to coach clients through a pandemic, the burden of the good practitioners, they take on their clients' problems and they're emotionally invested and they're empathetic. So you have that third layer as well. So trying to pass exams. So I get it. I'm an advisor. I practice. I live in the same world. How do we turn it around? I think when we spoke to you, you said, started the podcast, I was going to say interview, you said that, turning down, you're able to turn down, or rather by choice or design, you're out of it for a little while and have been. I think we probably need to, I'm asking you to turn down the noise a little bit. I'm asking the sector to turn down the noise a little bit. That does not mean that we're not empathetic to the needs of people that still have to pass the exam, that have to navigate 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 subjects over the course of the next 5 years. But rest assured, we are working our butts off, a small team with a massive agenda to give you the stability as best as possible in terms of the platform for you to be able to build your businesses and service your clients in the most cost-efficient way that doesn't diminish consumer detriment. So leave that work to us, engage constructively, focus on the fact that you've got incredible clients. There will be a plethora of them. you do incredible work, and focus on the areas that you can control. Because if we get through this, if you get through your education, we will no doubt get some wins out of the quality of advice review. And both sides have said that they're looking for some recommendations, regardless of who is in government, to be able to table and implement in the first part of 2023. So it's not going to be transformative, but we will get some wins, and we've got unilateral acknowledgement. So I think have some confidence in the sector, worry about what you can control, have some trust in the people that are in the chairs that are trying to make a difference. And just march on, I'm afraid. That's,
Yeah, but I think you touched on a piece earlier that is so unique to us, and that's community. We are such a community, and probably why I feel like I've been out of touch is possibly because I'm so used to being able to see everyone, and we are so good at sharing goods and bads and uglies. And of course, we've been in our own small cave for the past few years. That surely has an impact. And so I guess, an action item for me maybe off the back of this is to get a bit more involved from a community perspective, because I've been in my own little work COVID cave.
Look, I think, without a shadow of doubt, a problem, shared is a problem halved, and just to speak to people in terms of how they're navigating it in a positive sense. Like it's not getting together with people and, it's about woe is me or wallowing in our issues. It's about getting together with like-minded people that believe in the future, that have some hope, but are able to talk frankly and put their issues on the table and talk about how difficult it's been and perhaps, what they're looking for. So I sincerely hope sort of some of the events that we're going to run over the course of the next few months enable us to get good people together.
Amazing. Is there anything else that I've forgotten / not asked you that you would like to talk about before we move on to the rapid fire questions that you tried to put at the front of today's session?
No, I don't think so. We're out of time. Otherwise, I would have asked you a couple of questions. But
I know, what a shame. We're out of time. In all seriousness, you are a very busy person, and this is an interesting time to have you on board, both from an advocacy piece as the association, but also understanding, what does this election actually mean for us, and getting your thoughts on it is really helpful and relevant. So I want to say an enormous thank you, because I really do value your time, and I'm so grateful to have you on here, and very excited to see all of the amazing work that you're going to continue to deliver to the AFA.
No problem, Jess. Happy to be here. And I should have said in Queensland in particular, there are a number of functions and events that have been held jointly with the FPA and with XY Advisor and the SMSF Association as well. And it pleases me to no end to see that sort of collaboration and people getting together as well. So I was thrilled to come and chat to you, because it's been some time. I've got to get on a podcast to be able to talk to you. How's that for?
Bloody Queenslanders, I can't believe they beat us through it. We're going to have to show some camaraderie and competitiveness and get organised from a New South Wales perspective. And yes, if you do want to speak to me, just book in a podcast session with me and we can have a wonderful 40-minute chat about it. Okay, let's give you some time back. Let's fire off your last rapid fire questions. The reason I do this is because I love hearing people's insights in terms of their speciality, but I also want to remember that we're human and we have lots of insights and knowledge to impart onto each other. And if we can all take one thing, that's the compounding and cumulative impact of that is huge, as James Clear says in Atomic Habits. So one thing that you do to look after your mental health.
I think my team sports, I play Oztag and touch footy, so that's important to me. Run around with my mates and have a bit of physical activity.
Good on you. I got banned from Oztag because I accidentally tackled a man. I just forgot to stop and I barreled him over and he became injured. So that ended my Oztag career. What is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
I was thinking about this. Hasten slowly. So take risks. It's important to take risks, but on important life decisions, take your time on them. That's cryptic. Fascinating
man who holds space for both sides of the argument. I like that. What is one big thing on your bucket list that you haven't ticked off yet?
Again, I was thinking about this, and I could tell you something way, out of this world, like, I don't know, skydive or something like that, but I haven't been to a dinner en blanc yet, and my wish is to try and get to a dinner en blanc this year, and perhaps in Sydney in a few weeks' time.
Oh,
that's a small one.
No, that's great. If you don't know what that is, it's basically everyone gets together at all these different venues and you wear all white, correct?
Indeed, yeah. Don't ask me why.
If you don't get a ticket, just set up your own in your backyard and charge people. There's some diversification of income streams for you.
Hey, that's a great idea for an AFA event.
Oh, here we are brainstorming for the conference. There you go. My last question to you. A book for you to read, for me, no, you've probably hopefully read it. A book for me to read as part of my fake book club. Got any?
Fiction or non-fiction or what?
Whatever you think I need to read.
What do you like to read, fiction or non-fiction?
I do this thing where I read 2 books at once. So typically I read fiction and non-fiction at the same time. I'm currently reading a fascinating book around the history of finances, which by Niall Ferguson, The Ascent of Money, which is very interesting. But you can I'll read anything.
Let's talk about impact, and I think I'll stay away from the business world because we're talking about business world. But Elie Wiesel, who was a Holocaust survivor who only died, I think he died 2 years ago. I forget, COVID's messed my mind up in terms of time frames, as always. But he, one of his accounts of the Holocaust is a book called Night. It's a very short book, but it's profound because he vividly describes seeing some of the horrendous atrocities of that particular period in our very sad history, and it's extremely profound. It impacted him. He gave up his faith, but then lived on to accomplish many wonderful things, and in fact I think also received a Nobel Peace Prize, but it's called Night, Elie Wiesel.
Thank you. That sounds fascinating.
Okay.
A huge thank you for everything that you're doing, not only in today's podcast, but in a general sense. Thank you for being you. Thank you for taking on the good fight. We know it's a lot of work. We know sometimes there's lots of hours and often there's not enough recognition of all the hard work. So on behalf of everyone, I wanted to say a ginormous thank you for being part of today and more broadly all the great work you're doing to continue to evolve our profession. Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you, Jess, at any time, and thanks for having me, and keep up the good work to all our friends who are advisors out there. So, have a good year, and hope to be back, or I hope to be invited back some stage soon.
We'll see. We'll see if you can get back. You can come back whenever you like. Thanks, Sammy.
Thanks, Jess.